This is my second book chat with spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on the book, if you don't want to know specific parts of the book, close your ears, or hit the mute button, or just stop watching. However, if you're watching this one and you didn't watch the other one, and you just can't get enough of what I think about these books, you can go ahead and watch the other one, because it has no spoilers in it, but it also isn't just like the same as this one without spoilers. It's completely different, because I have to talk about completely different things when I don't talk about spoilers. So it's basically a completely different video just about the same books. So if you're interested, you could watch the other one, just so you know. And, as in the other ones, I should introduce my co-hosts, Popple and Tim Bear. And now onto the books. The third one, The Woman Who Rides Like a Man. So she's out in the desert, and I was a little skeptical of this, because she's out in the desert. There's a bunch of new characters that I don't know, and I wanted to see how she was going to deal with the characters I did know. I feel like there's a running theme in these books, though, and I'm not so sure how I feel about it, is that most men will eventually betray you, and that boys often aren't very smart, because she's got the 3 apprentices, she's got the 2 girls, and the 1 boy that she's trying to teach them all magic. And then one boy, of course, is the one who's a little bit like Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan's holding me back! I need women! I have bad pickup lines! Well, he's not that bad. You feel bad for him because he's not that bad. But yeah, he wants to go ahead in his studies, and he does that. He takes her sword because he thinks he can handle it, and he like spontaneously combusts, and she was right the whole time. And then, you know, her brother Tom's up to something, which we get on to in the next book, but I don't know how I feel about that theme. It just seems, and even the prince, who's generally a good guy, and even though they break it off for very legitimate reasons for their own relationship, and for him to go and grow up a little bit, it's just sort of the whole thing of, I don't mind girl power, but I do mind girl power to the extent of all guys are evil. But maybe that wasn't where Tamara Pierce meant to go with that. That was just sort of the impression that I got, or that guys are more flawed than women. And I feel like she was trying simply to say that a lot of guys assume that women are a certain way and they really shouldn't pigeonhole them, but you really shouldn't do that with any gender, or person, or type of person. So that's how I look at it. And I really like that she and George get together. Yay! And like I said, I kind of see it coming that it wasn't going to work out with the prince, because I'd read the first part of this, and I was sort of basing that on that they started. I said I wasn't basing it on anything, but they sort of started having these little tiffs, and I felt like the little tiffs were grounded in bigger issues, which they were indeed grounded in bigger issues. But she has George to console her, and when would that not be good? But then, of course, she has to leave George, because she has to go off adventuring, and he has to go handle the Claw, the thief lord who's trying to usurp his thief king throne. So that was interesting. I liked the calmer parts of books sometimes. Like, adventure, action is fun, but I feel like you develop the characters the best when you have a little bit of breather, and they're hanging out, and if they're hanging out, they might as well be getting it on, because what else is there to do? And it's fun, especially when it's George. So, I liked that. I liked that part of this book, so that was probably my favorite part of this book. And yeah, you're all thinking, Sherry, you don't like romance novels. Why do you get so into this? Like I said, I feel like because there's more story to it, I know more about the characters because there's more story to it. It's not simply just about getting them together, because that would be something of a boring book. But it's you get the suspense, and it's kind of like opening a present on Christmas. It's like you've been waiting so long, and now there it is. Instead of, I know it's gonna happen, so meh. That's how I feel about it. And they acknowledge the cat. I think they wait until the last one to acknowledge the cat. The cat is still magical, and they just seem to take this for granted. Now, I did just read these books yesterday, and I read them rather quickly, so I could be wrong. So if you're a diehard fan and you happen to know, I'm very sorry, but I think it's been not until the fourth one until they're actually like, is that a magical cat? Gee, how perceptive of you. Yeah, I just realized that not all cats talk. It happens. And I realize that they can't always understand him, but they understand him sometimes. So I think that's enough to be like, I think that's a magical cat that you got there. I think it is. So, yeah. And this one just has a lot of cliffhangers and a lot of open-ended things. You know, Roger's coming back, and Tom is getting up to no good, and I really don't like where that's going. And I'll talk more about that when I get into the fourth book, but I really don't like where that went, and where it's going in this one, and I saw badness coming on the horizon. I don't like it when siblings have to go through bad times. Don't like that. And the last chapter was interesting. It leads very well into the fourth book, because it's the way that she gets the map that shows her to the roof of the world to find the Dominion Jewel for John. But it is very Mercedes Lackey-like, and oh, by the way, let's go save this damsel in distress, which has had nothing to do, like, she's been having these visions of this throughout the book, but otherwise it's a completely random adventure. And I almost wish I could write like that, because then I feel like I could finish my novels earlier, because once the random adventure finishes, it can be a closed sort of ending, because this one, of course, still leaves things open, but you've had sort of closure because it's one little storyline finished. Although I didn't feel as much like everything in the book was really leading up to this. It's just sort of happenstance that she happens to be in this desert tribe, and then eventually the guy mentions, oh, there's this lady I know, and they're probably burning her as a witch right now, and could you go help her out? Interesting. Very interesting. Actually, I don't think he knows that they're burning her as a witch. Only Alana knows that. I think he's just worried about her. He hasn't heard from her in a while.